Welcome back, and you are still live on Midday Live with me, Rabiu Al-Hassan, here for the business segment. And to my first story, where an economist at the University of Ghana, Dr. Osei Sibe, says the lecture on the state of the Ghanaian economy by the MPP presidential running mate, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, is replete with facts which cannot be debated. Given his analysis of the lecture, Dr. Sibe said many of the concerns raised by Dr. Bawumia are already known facts which have been raised by the IMF.
The NPP presidential running mate Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia on Thursday held a lecture on the state of the Ghanaian economy, where he made a critique on the current government's handling of the economy. According to him, the NDC government has failed to put good use of the huge loans it has contracted, saying it is not commensurate to the infrastructural development we've seen so far. Analyzing the lecture in his right as an economist, Dr. Osei Sibe said Dr. Bawumia sought to reiterate many of the concerns that have already been raised, that the macroeconomic situation now is not the best, only that he put it in a historical perspective. According to him, many of the issues raised by Dr. Bawumia are facts which makes it highly undebatable.
You can attack the opinions that were expressed. Government will have the right to attack the opinion, but where it's facts, then it's difficult. For example, if you say that the growth rate, as at 2008, we grew by about 9.2%, and now we are growing at 3.9%. This is a statement of facts. And this is well documented in government's own report.
On the issue of the current debt stock, Dr. Sibe explained that Dr. Bawumia and the government are using different models in calculating our debt stock.
The information that Dr. Bawumia wanted to put across was the fact that the total debts that you have taken accumulatively, how much have you borrowed, without talking about how much you have paid. Government is looking at the debt that currently exists in our book. So taking out all those that we have already paid.
So you're still live on Midday Live here on TV3, and you just heard an analysis of that lecture that was presented by Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, who is the running mate to the MPP presidential candidate in the person of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. We are trying to raise on the lines Kizza Attoforsen, who is the Deputy Finance Minister. I'm told he's on the line. The Deputy Finance Minister, he's going to react to some of the issues that have been raised by Dr. Bawumia. Thank you very much for joining us, Attoforsen.
Thank you.
Okay, the first issue, very contentious, the issue of the public debt stock. We would want to know, so that we can clarify the issues for our viewers. What is the current public debt stock, and how much have you accumulated since you came into power?
Okay, thank you very much. Let me say that, yes, the issue of public debt has, Bawumia raised the issue of public debt. And the fact that he made certain allegations that the NDC administration has added $39 million, $39 billion over an 8-year period to the public debt stock. If I may do a quick calculation, assuming the dollar is 4 and round the 39 billion to say 40 billion times 4, if times 2 will give you 80, so it means the public debt is 160 billion. As of December 2015, public debt stock stood at slightly below 90 billion cedis.
And he contends it
at
is...
the time, yes, and the same person is saying that when they were leaving office, they left a public debt of $8 billion. Granted that is the case. $8 billion as of December at a rate, let's say 4, rounded up to say 4, will give you 32 billion cedis. So 32 billion cedis plus minus the level of $88 billion, 88 billion cedis at the time as of December gives you a total accumulation over the period for about 56 billion cedis.
Quite interesting there.
So my worry here is that his comment that clearly we have added 39 billion, and he himself saying that we've added, they left 8 billion. It means that at the time they were leaving office, plus up to date, based on his allegation, then the public debt stock is about, say, $46 billion.
Okay.
And the same person is saying that.
Point well made. Sorry for batting in. Sorry for batting in. Point well made. He goes further to say that 66% of public debt in the last 3 years is something that President Mahama has accumulated. Is that the case?
It cannot be the case. I mean, his statistics doesn't add up. His statistics that doesn't add up. His numbers doesn't tally. So I don't know where he's getting this from. In the first place, he's saying we borrowed 39 billion, which me and you knows that is not the case. The public debt as at today does not translate to $39 billion. So what is he talking about?
Okay, so to make things simple for our viewers, could you tell us how much have you accumulated since you came into power?
No, what I was trying to explain to you, as of December 2015, public debt stood at 88 billion cedis, of which at the time MPP were leaving office, the public debt in US dollars was 8 billion. 8 billion as of December, translating it into cedis, it's equivalent to 32 billion cedis. So if you take 32 billion cedis from the 88 billion cedis, the total accumulation over the 8-year period is under 56 billion cedis. So it cannot be equivalent to what he's talking about.
Okay, so even let's just move on from the public debt issues to how you've utilized the monies that have accrued to you. He is concerned that it looks like the kind of expenditure that you've done with the monies that you've accumulated in the period doesn't correspond. You use so much money to execute projects that earlier they used quite a few dollars or few millions to execute. He cites the example of the hospital that's being constructed in the University of Ghana, a new hospital that's being constructed. The sum that's being used to construct that hospital, it's quite less than the amount being used to refurbish the Ridge Hospital.
No. You see, this is a clear example of someone who is dishonest, a clear example of someone who is only trying to spew propaganda and to deceive Ghanaians. Before a contract is awarded, if it's sole sourcing, you go for value for money. In the case of the Legon Hospital, value for money audit was done. It went through the approval processes to the extent that it went through Parliament before Parliament.
We can't discount the fact that it was quite controversial in Parliament.
What was controversial?
People raised issues with regards to value for money for the project.
That is what I'm trying to explain to you. That value for money audit was duly done. At the time, all of us knew exactly what the cost was. But let me say to you clearly that I've read bits and pieces of what he had said, and I can punch holes in almost every paragraph that I read. Let me tell you, he first of all was trying to say that the fiscal deficit in December, as at 2012, was 12.2. This is not correct. The fiscal deficit in 2012 was 11.5. He went on to say that the fiscal deficit in 2013 was 11 point something. It was 10.1, and went on again to say another 11.4 for 2014, which is also not the case. He's misrepresenting data left, right, and center. He went on and spewed lies again to Ghanaians that if you look at the GDP numbers, comparing it from what they left office with, they looked at where they started it and where they ended it, saying that they performed better than NDC. Numbers don't lie. It's a complete lie from what he's saying. If you look at, on average, you look at MPP's 8 years, under the MPP from 2001 to 2008, the average GDP growth was 5.6. Between 2009 to 2015, the average GDP growth plus oil is 7.3. Let's say they didn't have oil, so take oil out, The average GDP growth was 6.6%. It far outweighs MPP's growth by 1 percentage point. What is he talking about?
Okay.
Is this a guy to trust? Nobody can trust such a person.
Okay, thank you.
Honest, he's not telling Ghanaians the truth. I thought his lecture was on academic issue.
Okay,
it has
thank you.
nothing to do with academics.
Thank you very much. You heard the Kaiser Atuforsin, who is the Deputy Finance Minister, trying to clarify some of the issues that have been raised by Dr. Bawumia, the Vice Presidential running mate of the NPP, at a lecture he addressed last Thursday, the state of the Ghanaian economy, a foundation of concrete or straw. Now, to put things into perspective, it seems the politicians are doing their own things with the figures and how to interpret it. Now, we would want to talk to civil society organizations to actually break things down for us to understand better who really is interpreting the figures properly. We've already seen a good job being done by Imani Ghana with regards to an analysis of what Dr. Bawumia did present, telling us those that are partisan in terms of the interpretation of the data and those that could possibly be true. So now let's just come into the studio. We have an economic analyst and also president of NERA Africa, which is a civil society organization, to also explain further some of the issues that have been raised. Now, to this key issue of public debt, what do you make of the issues that have been raised by both parties and also the explanation that has come in from Imani Ghana? Actually, Imani Ghana didn't find the explanation by Bawumia quite prudent.
Thank you very much, Rabio. There are two things that we have to get here. We have public debt stock and amount of money borrowed. You can borrow 100,000 cedis today. You will be servicing the debt. At the end of the year, if you take the stock of your debt, that is amount you are left to pay, it will be 1 cedi. It doesn't mean you didn't borrow 100 cedis.
Okay.
So at the end of the year, you measure debt stock. As at first quarter, we have a figure for debt stock that stood at $26 billion. And if you convert it, if you do the conversion, it's around 105 billion Ghana cedis as it was settled. The challenge they have now is they are finding it difficult understanding the difference between amount borrowed and the debt stock at a point in time.
So for the ordinary Ghanaian, how do we swallow this? There is the truth coming from Dr. Bawumia and also there is the truth coming from the government. The government says the Ghana Statistical Service, that is the authorized body to release these figures, have released it, and it's quite contrary to what Dr. Bawumia is saying.
The debt stock the government gives is a $26 billion. That's 105 billion Ghana cedis. We have Dr. Bawumia confused two issues, and I think that
which Imani points out that in calculation
the confusion comes about when you are not able to decipher the difference between amount borrowed and the debt stock. Bawumia stated that the government has borrowed 39 billion cedis and the debt stock is 26 billion Ghana cedis. The two issues are different. You can borrow 39 billion cedis, but at the point in time, the debt stock wouldn't be the 39 billion cedis.
Okay, so in terms of the alternatives that were proposed by Dr. Bawumia, which one of them do you think truly, if we carry through with it, it could be of benefit to the country?
I think for such policies, you need comprehensive documents, because if you are telling me that you are going to scrap taxes on a lot of stuff, sure, in economics, you just have to know that your revenue is gotten from multiplying your tax and the quantity you are able to produce. So if taxes are reduced, obviously there might be a shortfall. But if the tax that is going to be reduced is going to spare up quantity produced, it means the revenue figure will be positive. So we just have to analyze the situation. Okay, if we look at these places, these are the places that are struggling. If we are to trigger the tax downwards, these are the benefits that we are going to get in respect of quantity. So the revenue figure at long run will be increasing rather than having a strangulated revenue with high taxes.
Okay, thank you very much. You heard there Bernard Owusu-Mensah, who is an economic analyst and president of NERA Africa, a civil society organization. The debate has just started, and here, your election command center, be rest assured, will bring you all the angles and dissect all the issues for you. Rabiu Al-Hassan with the business segment. Midday Live continues.